Yashodanandana Rajaranjananjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Brajaranjananjana Yashodanandana Brajaranjananjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Javihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Brajaranjananjana Yashodanandana Brajaranjananjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivacharya Shota Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivacharya Shota Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to simple devotees. All glories to simple devotees. All glories to Shri Guru. All glories to Guranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 7. Chapter is titled Further Inquiries by Vidura, text number 9. Maitreya Uvacha Sa iyam bhagavataha maya yat nayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam uta bandhanam. Okay. Matreyuvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam uta bandhanam. Matreyuvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Please repeat. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Madhush. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Matreya uvacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayina virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam bandhanam. Okay. Hey, can you turn the down a little bit? I have a tendency to talk a little loud. All right. All right, so word for word. Maitreya Vacha. Maitreya said, Sa iyam, such a statement. Bhagavataha, of the personality of Godhead. Maya, illusion. Yat, that which. Nayina, by logic. Virudyate, becomes contradictory. Ishvarasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vimuktasya, of the ever liberated. Karpanyam, insufficiency. Uta, as also. What to speak of. Bandhanam, bondage. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Maitreya said, certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that the Supreme Brahman or the personality of Godhead is overcome by illusion or Maya, and at the same time they maintain that he's unconditioned. This is against all logic. So this is a fairly long purport, so bear with me. Okay, purport. Sometimes it appears that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is 100% spiritual, cannot be the cause of the illusory potency which covers the knowledge of the individual soul. But factually, there is no doubt that the illusory external energy is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. When Vyasadeva realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw the Lord along with his external potency, which covers the pure knowledge of the individual living entities. Why the external energy acts in this way may be considered as follows, as analyzed by great commentators like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami. Although the material illusory energy is distinct from the spiritual energy, it is one of the many energies of the Lord, and thus the material modes of nature, the mode of goodness, etc., are surely qualities of the Lord. The energy and the energetic personality of Godhead are not different, and although such energy is one with the Lord, he is never overpowered by it. Although the living entities are also parts and parcel of the Lord, they are overcome by the material energy. The inconceivable yogam Aishvaram of the Lord, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9.5, is misunderstood by the froggish philosophers. In order to support the theory that Narayana, the Lord himself, becomes a Daridra Narayana, a poor man, they propose that the material energy overcomes the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, however, offer a very nice example and explanation. They say that although the sun is all light, the clouds, darkness, and snowfall are all part and parcel of the sun. Without the sun, there's no possibility of the skies being overcast with clouds or darkness, nor can there be snowfall on the earth. Although life is sustained by the sun, life is also disturbed by darkness and snowfall produced by the sun. But it is also a fact that the sun itself is never overcome by darkness, clouds, or snowfall. The sun is far, far away from such disturbances. Only those who have a poor fund of knowledge can say that the sun is covered by a cloud or by darkness. Similarly, the Supreme Brahman or the Para Brahman, the personality guided, is always unaffected by the influence of material energy, although it is one of the energies. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shuyate. There is no reason to assert that the Supreme Brahman is overpowered by the illusory energy. The clouds, darkness, and snowfall can cover only a very insignificant portion of the sun's rays. Similarly, the modes of material nature may react upon the ray like living entities. It is the misfortune of the living entity, certainly not without reason, that the influence of the material energy acts on his pure consciousness and eternal bliss. This covering up of pure consciousness and eternal bliss is due to advitya karma samgya, the energy which acts on the infinitesimal living entities who misuse their minute independence. According to Vishnu Purana, Bhagavad Gita, and all other Vedic literatures, the living entities are generated from the Tatashta energy of the Lord, and thus they are always the energy of the Lord and not the energetic. The living entities are like the sun's rays. Although, as explained above, there is no qualitative difference between the sun and his rays, the sun's rays are sometimes overpowered by another energy of the sun, namely the clouds or by snowfall. Similarly, although the living entities are qualitatively one with the superior energy of the Lord, they have the tendency to be overpowered by the inferior material energy. In the Vedic hymns, it is stated that the living entities are like the sparks of a fire. The sparks of fire are also fire, but the burning potency of the sparks is different from that of the original fire. When the sparks fly out of touch with the original fire, they come under the influence of a non-fiery atmosphere. Thus, they maintain the potency to be again one with the fire as sparks, but not as the original fire. The sparks can everlastingly remain within the original fire as its parts and parcels. But the moment the sparks become separated from the original fire, their misfortunes and miseries begin. The clear conclusion is that the Supreme Lord, who is the original fire, is never overpowered, but the infinitesimal sparks of the fire can become overpowered by illusory effect of Maya. It is a most ludicrous argument to say that the Supreme Lord is overpowered by his own material energy. The Lord is the master of the material energy, but the living entities are in the conditioned state but the living entities are in the conditioned state controlled by the material energy. That is the version of Bhagavad Gita. The Frogist philosophers who put forward the argument that Supreme Lord is overpowered by the material mode of goodness are themselves illusioned by the same material energy, although they think of themselves as liberated souls. They support their arguments by a false and laborious jugglery of words, which is a gift of the same illusory energy of the Lord. But the poor Frogist philosophers, due to a false sense of knowledge, cannot understand the situation. In the 6th canto, 9th chapter, 34th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Durava Buddha Eva Tavayam Vihara Yogo Yad Asharano Sarira Idam Anavekshita Shmat Samavaya Atmanaiva Vikriyamanina Sagunan Agunaha Srijasi Pasi Harasi. Thus, the demigods prayed to the Supreme Lord that though his activities are very difficult to understand, they can still be understood to some extent by those who sincerely engaged in the transit loving service of the Lord. The demigods admitted that although the Lord is apart from the material influence of creation, he nevertheless creates, maintains, and annihilates a complete cosmic manifestation by the agency of the demigods. Oh my God. Okay, so I'll just read the Sanskrit translation again. Matreyu vacha seyam bhagavato maya yan nayena virudyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyam utabandhanam. Sri Maitreya said, certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that Supreme Brahman, or the personality guided, is overcome by illusion or Maya. At the same time, they maintain that he's unconditioned. This is against all logic. So, in brief, this verse and purport is directly attacking the Mayavad philosophy. Okay, we hear it time and time again. And it's important for us to be cognizant of the poisonous effects of this theory. It's very dangerous. Prabhupada spends like 2.5 pages and a half, 2 pages and a half just smashing the Mayavad philosophy. And this actually question, this response by Maitreya is actually in response to Vidura's question. Yeah, in verse 2. So Vidura asked, O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality Guided is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is it connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? So, this is a very intelligent question. He's asking, if he is the supreme whole, how is it that he's connected with material modes of nature? I think this is also mentioned in the prayers of the personified Vedas personified. But essentially, Krishna is never affected by material modes of nature, in brief. And if you study, our Sampradaya specifically, Prabhupada makes a point to debunk this philosophy from the very jump. Actually, in the preface of Bhagavad Gita, you don't have to pull it up, but I'll put it up. And this is in the preface, even before he even gets to any of the verses. Prabhupada says, the absolute position of Krishna is difficult to understand for any person who is not a devotee of Krishna in the system of parampara, the cyclic succession. Generally, the so-called scholars, politicians, philosophers, and swamis without perfect knowledge of Krishna try to banish or kill Krishna when writing commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Such unauthorized commentary upon Bhagavad Gita is known as Mayavad Bhashya, and Lord Chaitanya has warned us about these unauthorized men. Lord Chaitanya clearly says that anyone who tries to understand Bhagavad Gita from the Mayavadi point of view will commit a great blunder. So, from the very jump, Prabhupada is making a point of distinguishing reality from illusion and extricating all false philosophies. So before Prabhupada wrote his Bhagavad Gita as it is, most of the Bhagavad Gita commentaries were largely impersonalistic or Mayavadi. So the reason why this is dangerous is because like Putana, for example, Putana came to Krishna. She looked like a devotee. She looked, all the Rajavasis, they thought, oh, wow, such a nice devotee. She's so pretty. But she had poison on her breast. She came to Krishna looking like a devotee, but she came to kill him. Similarly, the Mayavad philosophers, they might pose as devotees. They might pose as great scholars, but they want to kill Krishna. This is why this philosophy is very dangerous. It's very dangerous. It's like, you have I think I was reading somewhere that back in the day, they used to train girls to take certain amounts of poison. And then they would send this girl to a king or something, and then she could handle the poison, but the king couldn't. So the king thought, and the guy's, oh, wow, she loves me, but really she was there to kill him. So Krishna is very pained by this Mayavad philosophy because not only Krishna, all the gurus in the cyclic succession are pained by it, because in the guise of trying to present Krishna consciousness, they're using the Vedas to kill Krishna. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. And as devotees, especially in this sampradaya, we have to always be cognizant of the fact that this Mayavad influence is pervasive in society. Actually, it's funny, in the preface I just read, Prabhupada said that, when you're pretty much not in the cyclic succession, then you're going to be prone to these impersonalistic and Mayavad conclusions. Me personally, when I first read Bhagavad Gita, I kept hearing this word Mayavadi. I didn't know what that was. Coming from the West, we don't know what Mayavadi, I didn't know what Mayavadi was, but I was infected by it, So Prabhupada came to help us understand what these, that's his mission statement, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. He came to eradicate this impersonalism and voidism and establish Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. Personality, emphasis on this personality. And the thing is, it's really, if you think about it, like it says in this translation, this is against all logic. The Mayavad conclusion is just against all logic. So it's different. The thing is, they don't even have a consensus of what they believe. Some of them say, Krishna comes down, but then he becomes covered by most material nature. Some of them say, oh, we are Krishna, and we came down, we're just exhibiting our Leela. But if you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. How can we exhibit our own Leela? How is that even possible? How can you say that you came down from the spiritual world, but you're in this body and you're suffering? When has God ever suffered? The same thing I asked this one Christian, and he was saying yeah, Jesus died on the cross. And he said Jesus is God. How can God die? Simply, it's against all logic for God to be overcome by the illusory energy. And Prabhupada in this purport just smashes that idea. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna so many times says this. He says this, I come down in my form, in this human form, and these fools, and they deride me. These mudas, they're mudas, they're fools, they're ignorant rascals. And Prabhupada would use these terms very heavily, actually. He would call them straight mudas. And this is pretty offensive, actually. You're calling somebody a rascal and a fool, But it was his duty to do so. Because if he wasn't going to do it, who was going to? So the problem with the Mayavad philosophy is they don't understand the Achinta Beta Beta Tattva. They understand the oneness. Yes, we are in quality, like Prabhupada saying this purport. In one, we are one in quality with Krishna. but they don't understand the simultaneously difference of it. Because they don't understand it, they commit offenses. It's a great blunder on their behalf, and they spread this philosophy. So, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually said that the prayers of the Mayavadis gives more pain to Krishna than the arrow shot by his enemies. Krishna is very, very pained by these prayers of the Mayavadis. Like, we chanting every morning the 10 offenses. They practically are committing every single offense. Practically all the offenses they're breaking. So it's very offensive. Every word they're saying is poisonous. It's detrimental to our own Krishna consciousness. We have to be very on guard about this. And actually, gross materialists, you can argue that actually gross materialists are better than Mayavadis. Why? Well, you see like Jagai Madai, for example. They're gross materialists. They got chastised by the Lord, and they were willing to reform their actions. And they realized that they were fallen, and they surrendered. But Mayavadis, they actually understand Krishna. Like, they understand this, but they understand him in the position of wanting to kill him. So gross materialists, they're just an illusion. But the Mayavadis, they use the Vedas to kill Krishna. And if you think about it, so Sankaracharya came down. Well, no, go back. Buddha came down to bewilder because people were abusing the Vedas. And Sankaracharya came down, and he came to, reinstall the Vedas. And actually, Hinduism is largely affected by Sankaracharya's philosophy, actually. Because if you think he established his Vedic culture, and you see in India, like, when I went, you see even if they're Mayavadi, they're well Dodi, they're very Paka, they, go to the temple, do worship, and they read the study of the Vedas. It's like I said, the Sankara philosophy, it largely has influences Hinduism. But Lord Chaitanya came to give us the direct truth of surrender, pure unalloyed surrender to Krishna. And this is where Hindus fall short. So in the guise of the Vedas, externally, they might pose as great spiritualists, but they're show bottle spiritualists. Because you could have the culture of the Vedas, but without the philosophy, it goes to stool. Because it's just show bottle spiritual. It's better to be a sincere sweeper on the street, actually, than be a show bottle spiritualist. So, our duty of the Christian consciousness, people always confuse us with Hinduism because we follow the same principles. But the difference between Christian conscious philosophy and Hinduism is that we have the philosophy. The Hindus might have the culture, but they're lacking the philosophy. Like I said, it's largely Mayavadi, actually. And, and nowadays, it's actually, Kamsa was actually, these demons, so there's demons within religious movements, right? And Kamsa actually, you can argue he's better than these modern demons. Why? He's better person than these modern demons because he wasn't trying to sugarcoat his demonic activities. He was straightforward about it. This is Krishna. I want to kill him. But these Mayavadis, they do all this word jugglery, and in the guise of being devotional, they're trying to kill Krishna. This is worse. So it's better to be straight up. Kamsa is actually, Guru Maharaj makes this point that it's better to be straight up demon than be a roundabout demon, because you're actually misleading people, you're cheating people. And the problem with this Mayavad philosophy, the main problem, what they do is they break the service between Krishna and the jivas, which is our inherent position. The reason why this is so dangerous, because this service is what gives us bliss, actually. This service is what actually gives us the highest platform of realization. Actually, the service of Krishna is so great that Krishna himself wanted to taste like that service. He came as Lord Chaitanya to taste what that service was. He knew, wow, like I see, she's serving me, my consort is serving me so well. She's experiencing more bliss than me. He came down to experience that. The servitors of Krishna, the jivas, experience more bliss than Krishna. But the Mayavadis, they directly extinguish that relationship. They have no bliss. They might have this bliss of this mental speculation. They have this bliss of, being one. And it's all mental speculation, but it's not actually spiritual. So actually, the Mayavadis and Vaishnavas, we actually agree all the way up the point to liberation. So as far as we're not the body, we're soul, we agree to all these points as far as material nature. But then once you start talking about liberation, that's how you can tell who's a Mayavadi. So, like I said, this bliss service to Krishna. It was a post in Bhadra Swami in his YouTube. It was like serving Daruka, and he was, fanning Krishna, and he was experiencing so much bliss by doing so. So much, but his leg, his arms were trembling. He was experiencing his ecstatic symptoms, but he withheld it because he wanted to serve Krishna more than he wanted to experience bliss. The Mayavadis they don't understand this. They can't understand how by service you can get this bliss, because they want to take service. You see, like the Mayavad sannyasis, they'll initiate a disciple, and then they became God. So they get a disciple, and then the disciple becomes very greater than them because, we're all God. We're all one. We're all God. And they don't have any bliss from it. They get no bliss, no happiness. They don't understand this bliss of service. So this Mayavad, it causes one's heart to be really, really hard. Really hard. And you see this, there's a pastime with Srivas Thakur. Was it Devananda Pandit, I think? And so Srivas Thakur, he went, it was like Devananda Pandit was giving a discourse on Srimad Bhagavatam, but he was a Mayavadi. Srivas Thakur, being a pure devotee, he was still able to separate the poison from the nectar. I wouldn't encourage any of us to do that, but he's on a different platform. Anyways, point is he listened to this discourse, and then he started experiencing Srivas Thakur started experiencing some transcendental emotions, and they kicked him out of the assembly. They said, "No, we don't. You're a sentimentalist. You're experiencing these feelings of devotion. No, get out of here." They're so hard-hearted that they cannot recognize, a symptom of love of God is showing these ecstatic symptoms. Because they have no understanding of love of God, when somebody's portraying these ecstatic symptoms, they think he's a sentimentalist. Actually, this is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita in the purport 10:11. You could pull this up. It's a famous verse. I say it all the time in my class. Teshamavanu kampartam ahamagyana jamtamaha nashayam bhavasto gyana dipina bhashvataha. 10:11. It's 10:11. Yeah, Teshamavanu kampartam. So go to the purport. So anyways, you go to translations. It's like, yeah, so to show them special mercy, I dwelling in the hearts restored with the shining lamp of knowledge of darkness born in ignorance. So the first thing the Prabhupada says, when Lord Chaitanya was in Benares promulgating the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, thousands of people were following him. Keep going. Prakash Ananda Saraswati, a very influential and learned scholar in Benares at that time, derided Lord Chaitanya for being a sentimentalist. Sometimes philosophers criticize the devotees because they think that most devotees are in the darkness of ignorance and are philosophically naive sentimentalists. So Mayavadis can't understand the feelings of devotees, because when you separate the servitor from the object of service, then the resultant concomitant factor of bliss is not coming. So when Lord Chaitanya was chanting Hare Krishna, and saw he's in ecstasy, he's just some sentimentalist. Sannyasis aren't supposed to experience bliss. They're supposed to study Vedanta, be hard-hearted, be strict. They're not supposed to. And this is what Lord Chaitanya had to deal with at this time. Similarly, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also had to deal with this. These sahajas, and then it was on the other end. Ajis Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it was these sahajas, and Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. We don't need to chant. We don't need to follow the Vedas. We can just chant. So it's two extremes. One extreme is your hard. The other extreme is you just really loose in your dealings. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, even Srila Prabhupada made it a point that no, we follow the Vedas, we follow the instructions of our guru, and we don't artificially pose ourselves as great devotees. We don't artificially pose ourselves as great devotees. Nonetheless, the Mayavadis can understand that when a devotee has these ecstatic symptoms, they're real feelings actually. So, like I said, the heart actually softens because the heart is so hard in Mayavadis, but they don't realize it's because they're lacking this relationships. The heart softens when you have relationships. A good example is Narada Muni and this hunter? What's his name? Mugari? Yeah, exactly. Mugari, right? Yeah. So, this hunter, he would go out and he would kill animals, he would half kill them. And then Narada Muni saw this and he was wondering, wow, why, how can you torture all these animals? What is causing you to do this? And he just said, it's just family tradition. I was taught to do this. I'm doing this. It's no problem. And then Narada Muni said, no, actually, you're accumulating a lot of sinful reactions for this. And his heart softened. And it's said that he didn't even want to kill an ant after this. But it wasn't until he got a relationship with a pure Vaishnava that his heart was able to soften. Okay? It's a relationship. Your heart softens through relationships. okay? And specifically relationships with the Vaishnavas. But when the Mayavadis extinguish this relationship, then they don't have no ability to have for the heart to soften, because they extinguish all forms and means of becoming liberated. Like they're in the darkness of ignorance. And, even newcomers, when they come into the society of devotees, they'll see like new bhaktas. I saw it was an issue where like, we'd be laughing and joking, and they'd be like, why are they like laughing? Why are they so jovial? You're supposed to be a monk. You're not supposed to be laughing. Why are you guys joking? You guys are taking all this nice food. They can't understand this, that like these relationships, it's the essence of bhakti. It's the essence, because they confuse us with the Buddhists. They see Buddhists are very pucker. And they see us, they're like, wait, why are they not like so strict in their practices? But no, they don't realize that we are serious. We're serious about being happy, actually. This is how we're serious about being happy. It's an instruction. Chant and be happy. This is an instruction, actually. So we are happy, but it's not artificial. We're happy through our relationships with the devotees. I experienced this myself when I was by myself and practicing the Krishna consciousness. It's very difficult, actually. I'm doing the same thing I was doing then, I'm doing now, but now I'm actually able to make some advancement because I have these relationships with all these great devotees here. But when you're by yourself, unless you're a Paramahamsa, you're not gonna really make so much advancement, because like I said, Krishna consciousness bhakti is based on relationships. It's based on relationships. And this is why the Mayavadis, this is their great blunder. They try to extinguish relationships. This is their great blunder, the great fallacy, as Prabhupada said in the preface of Bhagavad Gita. So, actually, it is our duty as members of the Sampradaya to surrender to Krishna. And part of surrendering to Krishna is actually defeating Mayavad philosophy. It's inextricably linked. Why is it inextricably linked? Because if you love somebody, then you hate all people who try to kill that person. If you love your mother and somebody comes with a knife trying to kill your mother, you would hate that person. You would want to stop that person from killing your mother. Similarly, we know that Mayavadis are trying to kill Krishna. So if we want to develop a sense of love for Krishna, we should be antagonistic towards this philosophy. People confuse all the time with the Buddhists. I tell them straight up, no. I think when I first met Bahosa, I said, are you Buddhist? He said, no, we're better than the Buddhists. Excellent response. I say that to people all the time now. Because we are better than Buddhists. On one end, people are gonna say that's like a very puffed up statement. Like, you're cocky. You're like really cocky. But no, we're not cocky. We're distinguishing reality from illusion. It's our duty to do so. People are so bewildered. Plus, these Mayavadis now, they're not even real. Like, they're like neo pseudo Mayavadis. Like you see. According to Sankaracharya's philosophy, they're very strict. They're celibate. First of all, you can't even start being a Mayavad unless you're celibate, first of all. Like, true in the true sense of the term. Of course, like I said, these neo-Mayavadis, but being celibate, practicing the rules, regulations of the Vedas, these new Mayavadis, they just commit all abominable activities, smoke a little weed and say, oh, I'm God. It's ridiculous. And then the thing is, because they don't have, like I was reading them before, they're not in the disciplic succession. It's by the mercy of the Guru that we're able to even understand any of this, actually. If we didn't have a Guru to break this down to us, then we will also be influenced by this Mayavad philosophy. So what was it? Transcendental technology. I think that's what Guru Maharaj was saying. The Parampara system is transcendental technology, because through it, by abiding by it, you see progress in your own spiritual life. So like I said, surrender to Krishna entails just defeating the Mayavad philosophy. And all the prominent gurus in our line, vehemently oppose this. Madhavacharya, Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is one example. When he first came in New York, he was, Swamiji. He was like, old man cooking, very nice, very gentle. And then I think it was Kirtanananda, Keith at the time. And he started spewing his Mayavad philosophy, just spewing it. And Prabhupada was patient, but you can tell he was being angry. He said, are you done? And he kept going, Prabhupada said, are you done? And he kept going, and he said, okay, I'm done. And then Prabhupada just got on him, you rascal, how can you be God? And he just got on him. And then the new devotees there, they were shocked. They're like, oh my gosh, Swamiji is getting angry. Like, they never saw him like that. So Prabhupada, he was very tolerant, but he never tolerated Mayavad philosophy. Even with his new disciples, he never tolerated it, okay? He was always strict and firm on the move, because he was surrendered devotee. A symptom of being surrendered is you're going to battle all opposing elements, even at the cost of losing his disciples. At that moment, he could have lost all his he didn't really have a big following at that time. But at the risk of losing any type of following he had, he chastised, berated all his mind, body ideals. This is an example. Whether people like it or not, is our duty to speak the truth. If we don't speak the truth, then we're no better than the karmis. So, like I said, it's our duty to clearly distinguish reality from illusion. Because nowadays you have this philosophy, oh no, love is love. We don't, everybody's opinion matters. Your opinion is good, my opinion is good, but you can't have an absolute opinion on an opinion, like an absolute stance. Once you make an absolute stance, people get offended. Like, people get offended when you have absolute stance. It's like, no, what you're saying is good. Just like, why you forcing on me though? The reason why we're doing it is we're saving them. They're killing their own souls. It's spiritual suicide. This mind vibe, it's spiritual suicide. And it's like somebody's running, this example, they're running with a kite and somebody's screaming, hey, stop, you're about to fall off. And this guy's like, the guy flying the kite is like, oh, you're about to fall off the cliff. The guy's like, why is he screaming at me? Like, I'm just trying to, he's about to fall off a cliff. We're trying to help them and they're criticizing us for helping them. Of course, like I said, we should present the philosophy in a palatable way. Nonetheless, we have to clearly distinguish. We are not like the Buddhists. The point of Vaishnava society is to cultivate relationships with devotees, which leads you to have a relationship with Krishna. You cannot have a relationship with Krishna without the relationship with devotees. You have to have a relationship with devotees in order to have a proper relationship with Krishna. Krishna is very pleased when he sees the devotees are associating properly. So, like I said, if we don't clearly distinguish reality from illusion, then we become degraded, actually. And actually, Prabhupada said this. It's a very bold statement, but, anybody who's not Krishna conscious is a rascal. Like I said, if new people came in, they heard that, they would be offended. Oh, I'm a rascal because I don't subscribe to your philosophy. Yes, sir, you are. I can explain it. So, ultimately, actually, can you go to this verse? It's 11:7-5. Okay, you go to the translate. Yeah. So, my dear Uddhava, you should not remain here on the earth once I have abandoned this world. My dear devotee, you are sinless, but in Kali Yuga, the people will be addicted to all types of sinful activities. Therefore, do not stay here. You can go to purport. I'll read a little bit of that. In this age of Kali, human beings are totally unaware that the Supreme Personality Godhead comes personally to the earth to manifest his transcendental pastimes as they are enacted in the spiritual world. Heedless of the authority of the Personality Godhead, the fallen souls of Kali Yuga become engulfed in bitter quarrel and cruelly harass one another. Because people in Kali Yuga are addicted to polluted sinful activities, they are always angry, lusty, and frustrated. This is a very important point. In Kali Yuga, the devotees of the Personality Godhead who are engaged in the ever-increasing loving service of the Lord should never be attracted to living on the earth, the population of which is covered in the darkness of ignorance and devoid of any loving relationship with the Lord. Can you go up to the word for word? There's one word he calls Udra, Bhadra. Yeah. Bhadra, O you who is sinless and inauspicious. So this is Bhadra. Actually, in Prahlad Maharaj, after he gave his prayers, Lord Nrsimhadev also called, right, this very reverse verse, he says, he calls Prahlad Maharaj Bhadra. And Prabhupada translates that as gentle one or gentleman. Why is he a gentleman? Why? Because he surrendered to Krishna. So anybody, like you said in this the purport I just read, everybody, especially in this age of Kali, they're all sinful rascals. They are devoid of any loving relationship with Krishna. And they are misunderstanding the goal of life. I think Mr. Vaughn was saying in his class that, I don't know why I'm blinking. Oh yeah, when you surrender to Krishna, you know everything. You know everything. Not only do you know everything, you actually attain 78% of the good qualities of Krishna. But anything devoid of Krishna consciousness is all on the material platform. So, yes, anybody who's not Krishna conscious is a rascal. Why? Because he's going to be forced to commit sinful activities, even unwillingly, actually. Even unwillingly, you're going to be forced to commit sinful activities if you're not a devotee of Krishna. Christian consciousness, it's like in the fifth, I think the fourth chapter, it talks about like action and inaction, inaction and action. So when we devotees, we have what, inaction and action. So we're not getting any results for our activities. You know, we're not getting sinful reactions from it. But the karmis are. So as a result of the sinful activities becoming more and more degraded. So, and they become bereft of all their good qualities. So anybody who's not Krishna consciousness Krishna conscious is a rascal. And you see it. You see, like I said, I taught this one Christian. He was 18. He's very intelligent. And then he's like, yeah, you know, I'm surrendering to Jesus and all this other stuff. And then I was like, okay. But he says it's okay to drink wine. I'm like, okay. He's like, Jesus drank wine, so what's the problem? I can intoxicate. He intoxicated. I asked him, so if you go to church on Sunday and then you go to the bar on Monday, you think that's okay? He said, yeah, because you need balance. So he's like, I'm saying he's a rascal. Because he doesn't understand the Siddhanta. He's got confused on the goal of love of God. You know, in the name of religion, he's performing sense gratification. Krishna consciousness is the only philosophy that clearly distinguishes what good and bad activities are, which is karma, vikarma, and akarma. So you have all these vikarmis running around, not understanding that their activities are further entangling them. Only Krishna consciousness can extricate you from the bonds of your karmic reactions. As long as you're entangled in your karmic reactions, you're going to be bound to perform sinful activities. So yes, anybody who's not Krishna conscious is a rascal. But it's so powerful that even if you're born in a low family, you can be elevated by the process of Krishna consciousness. Anybody, you know, myself, I came from a very degraded family. And now I'm on this Vyasa-san. I don't know how, but Krishna consciousness is a very powerful process. And in this verse, in the purport, this one right here, it said that Kali Yuga is symptomized by what's lust, greed, what is it saying? Yeah, angry, lusty, and frustrated. And you see this after a slight provocation. Off of a slight provocation, there's wars off a slight provocation. People are so disturbed in their mind that, you know, you present Krishna consciousness to them, they want to fight you. We're coming humbly, please, sir. Please take these books. You are so great. You know, I'm your well-wisher. And they spit on us because they're so disturbed. They're so disturbed in mind. They're not gentle. Devotees have this quality. We should imbibe this quality of being gentle, you know, and tolerant. You know, like I said, so this is one pastime, I think it was Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So somebody came and they wanted to argue with Rupa Goswami. And he was saying, oh, no, you know, you're not very learned. You're not very learned. And Rupa Goswami realized, like, okay, he's just a rascal trying to challenge me. He said, yeah, you're right. I'm not very learned. He's like, can you write that down? And he wrote it down. And then as he was leaving, was it Jiva Goswami? Yeah, he showed Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami, he wanted to argue with Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami he realized he's just trying to challenge him, and he's more concerned about being engaged in his bhajan. So this is a symptom of a gentle devotee. You know, he doesn't engage in unnecessary quarrel. Like I said, it's symptomized age of Kali. It's just at a slight provocation, somebody's quick to react. But, you know, Rupa Goswami, you see, he was gentle. He said, I'm not dealing with this, you know. I'd rather be engaged in my bhajan. So, yeah, I mean, back to the point of, like, nobody. So the thing is, we're all covered by this avidya potency of Krishna. So this ignorance causes us to perform sinful activities. And the Mayavadis, they're really influenced. Actually, I was reading Bhagavad Gita, and then, you know, Prabhupada says all the time that, you know, being one with God is the last snare of Maya. You know, I never really understood that. You hear it, but I never really understood it. It's like, what does that mean, the last snare of Maya, you know? I was really thinking about that. What does that mean to be the last snare of Maya? Well, because you realize you're not the body. You realize the material world is a place of suffering. So, okay, you got out that Maya identifying in your body, but then you're so close, but then you become on the Maya thinking you're God. So it's the last snare of Maya. It's another Mayavadi. It's a philosophy based on Maya. Like, yeah, you're in Maya. You're in Maya. It's the last snare of Maya. And it's easy to subscribe to it. It's like, you know, yeah, I'm God, so I can, you know, do what I want. The natural condition is one that actually to tend towards this Mayavad philosophy. It's actually hard to be Krishna conscious, actually, because you have to accept the reality that you're not the doer, you're not the enjoyer. But Mayavad is easy. It's like, oh yeah, I'm an enjoyer. I already knew that, so it's easy for people to subscribe to it because they're already covered by this avidya potency. But Krishna consciousness gives us this real light. Like I said, Gyanadipina Bhashavattaha, it gives the light of knowledge. So, in the verse today, it says that in translation it says this is against all logic. So, if you really think about Krishna consciousness, offers the most logical basis of understanding God consciousness. Like we don't even have to argue scripture. Let's just talk logic, for example, for a second. When we just base our arguments on logic, we can defeat any philosophy just based on logic, not alone. Like Prabhupada in this purport, he gave so many analogies. He talks about the sun and sun rays, and the fire and the fire sparks. It just makes sense. It's not some mental concoction. The good thing about analogy is you can compare it to something relevant, and it matches up. So as far as the sun and sun rays and the clouds, it's a logical example of understanding how the living entity, although the sun rays can covered by the clouds, the sun is always fixed in its position. It's a logical argument to defeat Mayavadi. So all the Christian consciousness, it offers these logical arguments. But we have to employ our intelligence to even understand this logic. So Bodhisattva Saraswati, on his appearance day tomorrow, disappearance, yeah. So he said one quote. He says, "A person who is slack in accurately understanding Siddhanta does not give up anarthas." So if you don't accurately understand Siddhanta, if you don't actually understand the conclusion of Shastra, you don't give up your anarthas. This is why. How is that? Because your intelligence is not fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. We should meditate on these topics. There's a verse in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Tani Sarvani Samnaya Yukta Asita Mapara. You can pull this up. This is 261 in Bhagavad Gita. Yes, go there. Tani Sarvani Samnaya Yukta Asita Mapara. You go down. So one who restrains his senses, keeps them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. So as long as your intelligence is not steady, understanding Siddhanta, your senses would not be controlled. Like I said, the soul, the intelligence is next door neighbor to the spirit's soul. So when our intelligence becomes fixed on surrendering to Krishna, when our refuge is in Krishna, we take our refuge in Krishna, then we're able to our intelligence becomes fixed. But as long as our intelligence is not fixed, our senses will always be unrestrained. But when we have a steady intelligence, our senses are automatically controlled. So like Bodhisattva Saraswati is saying, if you're slack in understanding this Siddhanta, you do not give up your anarthas. We have to deeply contemplate these matters. What is wrong with Mayavadi? What is wrong with these materialistic concepts? Why are we suffering? We should always be contemplating upon this, or we won't give up our anarthas. I don't want to go too over time, but I do want to make a really important point on another end. So in the switching gears a little bit. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that the sparks can everlastingly remain within the original fire as its parts and parcels. But the moment the sparks become separated from the original fire, their misfortunes and miseries begin. So as long as we're in the fire of Sankirtan, as long as we're in the fire of the Krishna consciousness movement, we are always in touch with Krishna. The second we lose that potency and that drive to preach, that's when we start drifting away from the fire of Krishna consciousness. But the fire of Sankirtan, it burns up our anarthas, even if we don't contemplate on these matters. Just by being engaged in the fire of Yagya, the Sankirtan Yagya movement, we can extinguish all our bad qualities. We can become a perfect gentleman or gentlewoman. We can become perfect just by preaching. And when you don't preach, you see the results of not preaching. You see the results. For example, I remember we were in India and we were just walking and we got invited to take milk at this Shiv Vaishnav house or whatever. And we were just taking milk or whatever. And then I think one of us, I think it was Matsya, but he noticed that it was anyways, before that, this lady was saying how her husband is a sannyasi, and they come up from a line of sannyasis, and how they're all pucka and everything. So we're like, okay, cool. This is a nice pucka family, and we're taking milk. What a blessing is to be here. And then we look around, the picture of Sai Baba, like on the altar, and we're just like, so. So you say you come from a line of sannyasis, you say your husband's sannyasi, but then you're worshiping Sai Baba. I think Vishnu Chitta Prabhu making the point, like, you just see, like, because they're not preaching, the Sri Vaishnavas, they're slacking their preaching. Because they're slacking their preaching, they get influenced by these bogus incarnations of God. It's really ridiculous. Like, you see the result of not preaching. Even when I was in DC, like, I was the only one practically even going out preaching, and I was in school doing it. And I remember I came to temple one day, they're doing puja to a demigod, right in front of the deities, right here, and the deities right here doing puja in front of a demigod. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Why? Because they're not preaching. When you don't preach, we're not engaged in the fire of Sankirtan, you're going to get influenced by these Mayavadi ideals. Like I said, it's standard to become impersonalistic or Mayavadi. You're doing puja of a demigod in front of the deities. Rascaldom. So that's why preaching is very, very important. It helps us become fixed in Prabhupada's service. And actually, Prabhupada says that, I was reading Translated Diary, that one who is living is preaching. A dead body is one who doesn't preach. So as long as we're living, as long as we're breathing, we should use our voice, our breath, our legs in the service and preaching movement of Srila Prabhupada. As long as we do. And we do it, why? How? By distributing these books. So you see all these, you have like Coming Back, you have, Science Self-Realization. You have these different books hanging on, like, so Coming Back particularly deals with, like, reincarnation. Then you have, what's the other one? Higher Taste kind of deals with, like, Prashadam, But Bhagavad Gita directly attacks Mayavadi. You don't need a separate book. Bhagavad Gita in itself is so conclusive that just studying that, you can understand all the arguments to defeat Mayavadi. So when we go out and preach, it's going to be difficulties. Nobody says it's going to be easy. Actually, I was just reading this, speaking strongly. So yeah, I mean, the very first chapter, preaching means fighting. Yeah, so Prabhupada says, our fighting is against atheism. They say there is no God, God is dead, I am God, you are God. We are fighting against these principles, so our fighting is very strong. Don't think that we are sitting idly. I've come here to fight with the atheists. We go everywhere. We are fighting with atheists all over the world. That is our mission. We are here to fight against atheists. We're here to fight against the Mayavada conclusion, and we are here to properly establish the proper Siddhanta. I can't say one more thing. Last thing. So, can you go to this verse? Huh? This is very important. 3:2:10. 3:2:10. 3:2:10. Yeah. Just go down to the. Okay. Under no circumstances can the words of persons bewildered by the illusory energy of the Lord deviate the intelligence of those who completely surrender souls. As long as we're bewildered by these atheistic mentalities, we are not surrendered. Okay, that's the purport of this verse. If you are not surrendered, you are always going to be deviated. Your intelligence is always going to be bewildered when battling these atheists and these Mayavadis. We have to be surrendered. By being surrendered, we can counter all these Mayavad philosophies. So I'll end my class now and open up for corrections and comments and questions.
This Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prakrita Rasa Satadhushani, that's where he says that, right? Do you know the Bengali? I know the second part, Anartha Chadina.
I don't know.
But then I can't remember the first one. Okay. I have there's a comment that so like you were saying about the Mayavadis, they have this concept where they, like for instance, when the Sringeri sannyasis, they take sannyas, the disciple worships the guru, then they swap, and then the guru worships the disciple.
Okay, it's really great.
And it's kind of, it's a really bewildering ceremony. It's meant to bewilder the mind.
It's really great.
And I was, initially as I came, in acquaintance with the Krishna conscious philosophy, I watched how in Mayapur, at the Kurukul, they enact a little like play, you can say. It's not exactly a play, it is kind of, where one of the Gurukul boys dresses up as Vamana. And then he comes, and then they literally worship him exactly like, Vamana. The whole ceremony happens. And I was like really bewildered. I was like, why are they doing this? It's like, they actually think that boy is Vamana, and like this. Because I was coming from that kind of a background where even in my house, sometimes there would be a little worship ceremony where sometimes one of the ladies gets chosen as a representative. Well, they're supposed to be representative, but they worship her as Lakshmi. And they do everything. Like, they do arati, wash the feet, feed her nice things and everything like that. And when I would ask the explanation, they say, she is Lakshmi. And they would give this kind of Mayavadi explanation. And that's all I kind of knew. So I was thinking, wow, devotees are doing the same thing. But actually, when devotees are very clear when they're worshipping the representative of the Supreme Lord, they give the same respect, but they know he's also different to the Supreme Lord. And that's such an important point because it's found throughout culture where one has to respect. And then there's Shastric statements like, what is that? Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. Like this, that Guru is Brahma, Guru is Vishnu, Guru is Maheshwara. But there is representatives of the three gods, and they mix everything up. And so that was a common question. Now this point about Jesus as God it's really crazy. Jesus is God in human form, but then Jesus is also sitting on the throne with God in heaven. So I was kind of curious to know, did this kind of concept lead to more explicitly impersonalistic explanations by Christians? Do they explicitly think that because God came in human form like Jesus, we also could be like God or something like that? Or is it like a post only reserved for Jesus? Or
I'm
just kind of curious.
Yeah, so my understanding is, I've never actually heard a Christian say that he is Jesus, me personally, but I have heard, I think their understanding, I guess you say...
Well, there was one devotee in our temple who thought he was Jesus.
Oh yeah, the prophet. No. Anyways, I've talked to them about this. Is this the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost? It's almost like weird because they say it's all one. It's very impersonalistic, almost like borderline Mayavad, because they say Jesus is the Father, but he's also the Holy Ghost, and he's also human, but not human. So it's like the thing is, actually, when I was growing up, I understand that there was Jesus and the Father. So from my analysis, I honestly think this Mayavad, this neo-pseudo-Mayavad stuff going on has also infiltrated Christianity. Because like I said, my church when I was growing up, I understood Jesus was the Son of God, and then there was a Father. I always knew that. And it wasn't until recently that I'm starting people say no, it's all one, it's all the same. I don't know, that's my experience as a Christian, but I think, like I said, this Mayavadi is very strong. That's it's seeping into all these different religious systems. Now they think it's all one. It's all one. I never heard that growing up. Actually, I always understood that there was a difference between the Father and the Son. But even the Father's like something personal. You don't really know who that is. That's why I started studying more. So that's the best I say on that. Anybody else?
Yeah, you brought this point up. This person said they do drink wine though, and they're willing to do it Monday. But I think they inherently know it's sinful because they wouldn't perform a lot of these sinful activities if they were in the church. Right in the church. We understand. For them, there's some difference between how you behave in a church, how you behave at home.
Right.
And like we're closer in that connection. Like we the way we act here is the way we should also act behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So they inherently know these things are sinful, but I think they kind of they because they're not God conscious, they forget about God. They forget what he wants and his standards like that. So
Yeah, and they use religion to foster their own sense gratification. Because I've talked to other Christians, they don't even drink. So, but it's like it's not really a consensus of as far as just like what you do and what you don't do. Like Prabhupada clearly laid down 4 regular principles, 16 rounds, and this is throughout the society. But other religions is not like lay down principles of what you can and cannot do. So it's just mental concoction. It's just mental concoction.
yeah, but still they know because like they're not gonna have a beer in the church service or
Yeah,
like
exactly.
smoke a joint or like have illicit sex or like
Yeah.
anything like that. Like during the church service, they know these things are like illegal. Like
Yeah, it's just foolishness. The philosophy is straight foolishness. So. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're asking about like, Christians that are like going to impersonalism. I found this a while ago. Mahotsa Prabhu sent me this article. Mahotsa Prabhu sent me this article about people are leaving church and going to these alternative churches, and this is a website of one of them. So they're explaining their philosophy here. We believe that Jesus Christ was anointed and is the embodiment of love and wisdom, expressing oneness with the Father and exemplifying direct experiential union with God available for all. Jesus Christ is not only a historical figure, but a living presence. And it says here, dissolving the illusion of separation and awakening wholeness. Illusion of separation is sin and wholeness is salvation. So
what he's saying, that we're like not separate from Jesus?
it's saying that we can all attain to like the same thing as Jesus and like experience union with God in the way that he did and dissolve our separation from him, this kind of thing.
But mostly, what I saw that people they told that without Jesus we cannot attain the perfection of life, because like we are so imperfect, we cannot like be perfect. It's not possible for us to be perfect. But because of Jesus took all our sins, we can be. We can attain the heaven and we can attain the spiritual world only because of Jesus. Because he not will take our sins. It's not possible,
Right.
because we're full of sin, and like because of that, we can do whatever we want. Now.
Yeah, it's just this whole idea of like you attain salvation by faith, not by works. So I have faith. I have faith that he'll save me, so I can do what I want. But he'll relieve me of my sins. I have faith. I don't need to do any work. Doing work is nonsense. No, Jesus said you can have faith in me, and that's it. But it's ridiculous though, because even in the verse when Jesus, I think John or whatever, says, I am the way. If you go down a little bit, he also says, I perform many works, and you also, if you follow me, can also perform many miraculous works as well. So Jesus is saying, okay, listen to me, follow me, and if you do my instructions, listen to my instructions, you can also be exalted, not just just having blind faith, But yeah, that's a good point. It's just like, and another thing is, like, that's your guru. So, like, we get initiated, right? It's like we get initiated and let's just commit all abominable activities because the guru's he has our sins, right? This is like demonic, It's like it's super demonic because you're harming. So if Jesus is taking your sins, that means he's getting the resulting reactions from it. So you want your guru to suffer just so you can enjoy? It is like extremely demonic, like understanding of like God consciousness. I'm saying they're all demons and rascals. It's just demons and rascals, honestly. So.
But you also can tell them. Last time I asked the person who told that Jesus he took all the sinful reactions, my sinful reactions. I told, and now you can like perform again these new sinful reactions.
Yeah.
And he told, theoretically I can do this. And
Really cool.
and I told, see, I also believe Jesus. I like Jesus, and because of that, whatever I will do is already like done. And if I like I can do whatever I want, and actually whatever I do now is because of Jesus only. Jesus brought me here with these books, with Hare Krishna, and I only under the guidance of Jesus, because I like a strictly follower of Jesus, and everything whatever I do doing for Jesus only. and because of that, I'm doing only for Jesus now.
Yeah.
And they cannot do nothing.
Yeah, they can't understand that.
Really.
They can't understand that. They can't understand that. Yeah, Ali.
We spoke about, like you said, Mayavadis are worse than Karmis, but then you also brought up Sahajas. So, like, who's worse, Sahajas or Karmis?
Sahajas or Karmis? Definitely Sahajas. Yeah, because like I say, in the guise of Vaishnavism, they're just making a mockery of the whole institution. Not?
I was confused about that also.
Because there's still a feeling towards Krishna, although it is a little mixed. It's mixed. It's still, there is more inclination to worship Krishna. So there is a position of becoming purified. They're not right out offensive in this point, whereas karmis, they're completely lost. They're not within the Vedic culture at all, certain karmis.
Yeah.
So the sahajas, they're within the Vedic culture and they worship in Krishna. It just is prakriti, it's mixed, but they have an opportunity to become purified by that.
Yeah, I guess I only said that because, like, the 10 offenses, the perform sinful activities and chant the holy names, the worst offense. I was only thinking that because it's like, if you're committing sinful activities and then you're chanting Hare Krishna, you're actually going the wrong other direction. That's the only reason why. Because it's like, on one end, I see what you're saying, like, you have a feeling, but then they're committing offenses. And then if you commit offenses, how can you, like, and you're like fixed on committing offenses. Like, that's your ideology. I'm committing offenses, I'm going to chant the holy name because, I can do this. It's like, I see what you're saying, but...
Well, the holy name is the solution to all those offenses.
Yeah.
That, what's that song? Tare Hari Naam. I think it's, Ebharo Karuna Karo. What's the verse? Haristane Aparade Tara Hari Naam. So when one commits offenses to Vishnu, the deliverance for that is by chanting the holy name, which the Sahajiyas engage in. Also, all Sahajiyas aren't overt Mayavadis. They're they're generally just materialists. They don't have a very structured philosophical conception. They're mostly just trying to enjoy. And they are not envious of Krishna's form. This is a very, very important thing. They accept Krishna's form. They accept they accept his eternal nature, actually. The form and the eternal nature of the form. So, yeah, they're definitely better than karmis.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll have to suffer a little bit for their sinful activities, but still, they get the shelter of Krishna and his devotees after getting purified of their suffering, by the suffering.
I guess they would only get purified by like Bhadivinoda Thakur, by like a pure devotee, obviously, right? They wouldn't be like
yes,
just,
but the point is that Krishna puts them in that situation because they're still some kind of devotee.
Just to confirm, there's a purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Srila Prabhupada writes. Now it's a little bit like unconventional. It's not like our usual like perspective, but at least it's there. Srila Prabhupada writes about those who are chanting Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam, this whatever mantra. He writes that those who are chanting that mantra, it's a bogus mantra, but he said by the mercy of the name of Nitai Gaur, he said they make advancement very quickly. And he said, and even it's sometimes seen that they cry, and so he acknowledges at least at some level that there's some validity to whatever ecstasy they might be experiencing. And I think he says something also in that purport that they eventually become purified by that chanting, especially of chanting of the names of Nitai Gaur, and they eventually become purified and free from whatever offenses they're committing.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sahajism can lead to Mayavad. That's the danger.
I see.
Sahajas can, if you're a Sahaja, if you're a Sahaja, there's a high chance that you'll lead to Mayavadi.
I see what you're saying. Not all. Some Sahajas are Mayavadis, but not all Mayavadis. It's like
Not all Sahajas are Mayavadis, but
Sentimental.
just feeling.
Yeah.
But they can become Mayavadis.
purified.
We see that within our own Krishna consciousness movement.
Yeah.
They're Sahajas, they become Mayavad. start to associate with Mayavadis easily, because their sense of discrimination is completely lost.
Good question, Ali. Oh, yeah, Mataji.
So you were mentioning how God can't die, and then people have this misconception, especially when Jesus Christ, he died on the cross, and then he rose, like, I don't know how many days it was. But if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's also a pastime where supposedly, like, Krishna gets killed by, I guess, somebody.
Yeah. So,
It's okay.
yeah, I can explain that.
Yeah, can you explain kind of that in relation to...
Yeah, so Krishna, it's mentioned that he performed that pastime to bewilder the atheists. And the thing, so he got killed by, it was like a hunter, and this is after the battle of Kurukshetra, and it was like blood everywhere, and then he mistook Krishna's foot for a deer. First of all, why would a deer be anywhere near where it's like a battlefield? So the hunter mistook Krishna's like lotus foot as a deer, and then he shot Krishna's foot, and then Krishna left his body. So Krishna literally killed so many demons. He killed so many demons. As a baby, he killed Putana, but then, he gets shot in the foot, and he leaves his body. So it's explained, when I was reading in 11 Cantos, it's explained that pastime is there just to wind up his pastimes and bewilder the atheists. Right, that's another point. Yeah, so he didn't actually it's no a funeral place for Krishna. He left with his self-same body. That's another point. So yeah, that pastime is mainly like Krishna doesn't, like you said, he doesn't die. He just performed that pastime to bewilder the atheists.
Jesus did the same thing though, right?
No.
I said he left in his spirit.
He actually died. Then he was buried, and then he resurrected.
But he was like put in a tomb.
Yeah.
The whole point is that he had to die, and he actually died, otherwise there's no sacrifice.
Yeah, but that makes sense. That's like.
Yeah.
Well, what they say, from our understanding, is that he died.
Yeah, I mean, they'll say, Christians will say he died too. Like, they'll say, he died. They say, but, we don't say that God died. We don't, it's not, birth, death, old age, and disease is only applicable to conditioned souls. It's not applicable to even, for pure devotees, they don't die just like other, they might perform the pastime leaving their body. But, just like the example of the cat with the mouse and this kitten, they're in the hands of death, but it's different. They're going to the spiritual body.
Ramanujacharya performed the same pastime.
Right. Yeah, we talked about
Literally
that. Yeah,
the same pastime like Jesus.
Yeah.
But he's not Krishna.
Yeah, exactly.
Because even he had a body, material body that was transcendentalized. It's a spiritual body in that sense, but Krishna doesn't even have that.
Yeah,
It's
purely
not, Krishna does not accept even a transcendentalized material body. He has a fully spiritual form. And also, another thing with Krishna's departure is that after the hunter shoots, he sits there and gives this whole lecture to Uddhava. That's not how somebody dies from an arrow. It's the same thing like Bhishma, actually. But the thing is, these are all very extraordinary things, and that's the point. And what's the difference between Bhishma and Krishna? Well, Bhishma left his body.
Yeah.
Bhishma died. Krishna did not die. Krishna is swadhamopagate. Right. He went. So.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Some small commentaries from Chaitanya Charitamrita. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur considers such sahajas to be more favorable than the impersonalists, who are hopelessly atheistic. The impersonalists have no idea of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The position of sahajas is far better than that of the Mayavadi sannyasis. Although the sahajas do not think much of the Vedic knowledge, they nonetheless have accepted Lord Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, they mislead others from authentic devotional service.
Yeah, I think my mistake was I emphasized too much on the part of them misleading people, but I guess it's still better than
Because
just
like
yeah.
previously also like in Chaitanya Charitamrita we can read that they envious. The Sahajis they envious for devotees. It's also like
Yeah.
looks like this like Mayavadi. But another point that they more favorable, like more better than impersonalists, much more.
Yeah, that makes sense because they're at least situated in Krishna consciousness.
In the Prayers of the Personified Vedas and in purport, Srila Prabhupada says, although the neophyte devotees have not yet learned how to fully realize the Lord or meditate steadily on even the effulgence surrounding his body, still they take pleasure in presuming we are meditating on our Lord. And the Supreme Lord, moved by the waves of his boundless mercy, himself thinks, these devotees are meditating on me. When their devotion matures, he draws them to his feet to engage in his intimate service.
Just one clarification. That's the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, not Prabhupada.
Oh, yeah, that's right, sorry.
Okay, Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vanche kalpataru ki pasine vacha patitanam paramyo vaishnaveva namo namaha. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, I ain't know. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? When you grow up, did you? I never heard.